So I hope you performed a download of SQL Server Management Studio. Now once you've done the download and if you've installed the tool, when you launch SQL Server Management Studio, you will be given this Connect to Server screen. So here we need to give what is the server name. So if I go back onto all resources, if I go on to my SQL database, I can copy this server name onto the clipboard and I can put this as the server name. Now in terms of the login and password, so this should be the login and password that you mentioned when creating the Azure SQL database in that SQL Server screen. So let me hit on connect. And now you can see we are being connected onto the database server. And here you can see your database in place. If you expand this, you can go ahead and start creating your tables and inserting data. So as an example, I just want to show you how you can create a simple table using the SQL command of create table, how you can insert data into the table, and then how you can select data from the table itself. So I can go on to my database, I can right click, and then I can hit on a new query. So this will actually open up a query window. So I'll take all of these statements, I'll copy it and place it here. I can highlight the create table statements and hit on execute. Next, I can highlight the rows to insert data. And then finally, I can select the data from my table. So here you can see your data in place. If you want to know more about the workings of a SQL database, then you should think about going for the DP 900 exam when it comes on to Azure Data Fundamentals. So for the purpose of the AZ 900 exam, what have we understood so far when it comes to the Azure SQL database? Well, the main thing is to understand this is a platform as a service. If you had to, have a SQL database on a virtual machine, so first you would need to spin up the VM, then perform the installation of SQL Server, which could take around 30 minutes. And then probably you need to perform a configuration of the database engine on the VM itself. And then you have to also think about other aspects such as the backup of your database, high availability, etc. So your VM is an infrastructure as a service wherein the underlying physical server is completely managed by the Azure platform. Whereas in the Azure SQL database service, here it's not only the physical server that is managed by the underlying service, it's also the underlying virtual machine that is hosting your SQL database. Here you can't log into the machine. You can only log into the database server from SQL Server Management Studio so that you can access your Azure SQL database. So if a company does not want the burden of maintaining the underlying infrastructure, they can look towards using the Azure SQL database service.